An unmanned aerial drone is shot down. The United States said it was shot down over international waters. Iran said they have definitive proof that it was shot down in their airspace. And they send back warnings saying, stop violating our airspace. They go further and say, we have the wreckage in our shores or in our seas. It is unclear who's telling the truth in this case. The truth of the matter is, it makes all the logical sense in the world that if the United States was spying a spy plane or spy drone, unmanned, in Iranian airspace, it would have been doing its job of spying. It is, after all, a spy platform, and a spy platform, I would imagine, in the highest aspiration of its design, would be spying. And if that spying was done on Iranian airspace, and if it was shot down over Iranian airspace, would the United States own up to the fact that the shot was shot down over Iranian airspace? Probably not. So we're stuck in this situation that we don't necessarily know, that we can't take the United States' word for it. It is the country that was screaming weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It is the country that put out video saying that this was evidence of Iran putting bombs on tankers or mines on tankers when the Japanese pilot or the Japanese person, ship captain, completely goes against that story, saying that story is wrong and the Trump administration is misleading the people of the country. We don't know what took place, as a matter of fact. So when Donald Trump calls off the airstrike, supposedly at the last minute, and if we're being honest, we don't even know if that story is entirely true. But taking him at his face value for the moment, if he did call off that airstrike at the last minute, I am loath to give Donald Trump credit for that. Loath, I tell you, to give him credit for that, seeing as he was the one that ratcheted up tensions. He's the one that pulled out of the JCPOA. He is the one that put extra troops in that area. He is the one that called the Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organization. He is the one that increased sanctions to the point where they couldn't even get their hands on medicines. Trump did this. And yet Trump was supposedly the only lone voice in that room that was against those strikes, that gut instincts that said they're going to get me embroiled into a larger conflict that I can't get out of. I am loath to give Donald Trump credit. By the same token, Donald Trump also have people, maniacs, lunatics, on places like CNN that is trying to goad him and browbeat him further into war. I am loath to give him credit, but by the same token, I have to recognize that there are lunatics in media and in his space that are pushing him for war. CNN has done something massively irresponsible, and I want to talk about it. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. I might as well call it Soapbox After Dark. When real men can't sleep, real men do the news. I wanted to do a story dealing with Tulsi Gabbard and her response to the Joe Biden thing. But I saw this and it aggravated me to no end, which made me want to talk about it. There is no clearer compass than I have than on matters of war and peace. And God knows some of these people are astonishing. Like astonishing, like in a way that I can't necessarily fathom. Lunatics, psychopaths, people who don't necessarily fully understand the consequences of their actions or not care about the consequences of their actions. And either way, it is massively irresponsible for CNN to put people on who doesn't seem to care about larger consequences in the objective world and can't necessarily understand what's going to take place, the chess of it all. What takes place in regards to tactics and strategy? What is the opponent going to do? What is going to take place in regards to what the counter attack? Massively irresponsible. But first, let me show you what I'm talking about. Donald Trump downplays the downing of the drone. An unmanned aerial vehicle is shot down. And as I said, one side says it was in international waters, the other side said it wasn't. But either way, unmanned aerial vehicle shot down. Apparently, Donald Trump says the missile strike was on. Listen to what he says here. He is very clear.
Before you go, how many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians. I said, how many people are going to be killed? Sir, I'd like to get back to you on that. Great people, these generals. They said, came back, said, sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people that would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said, go ahead.
Now, understand what he's saying here. Everybody in that room wanted him to go. Pompeo, Bolton, Gina Haspel. One person being a torturer of a black site in Thailand. The other one being a religious maniac and being a hawk that, again, is perfectly okay with war with Iran, meaning Mike Pompeo. And the other one being a psychopath and war criminal, meaning John Bolton. These are the people that are around him. By the same token, let's be very clear, Donald Trump surrounded himself with these people. Nobody forced Donald Trump to surround himself with lunatics. He made that choice. So again, he doesn't get points even from that standpoint of being distanced from the people that he assigned around himself. But whatever I want to think in this case, Donald Trump had somewhat of a gut instinct of, I can't control this. All of these guys are okay with me and getting involved in a larger conflict. And not just okay with this. All of these guys, for the most part, have been comically buffoonish at their jobs. Is Maduro still in office? Yes. Did that uprising work? No. Is the Iranian government collapsing? No. Are they on the brink of collapsing? No. Did they tell Trump that those things were likely to take place? Probably. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't have went on with the strategy. They have been comically bad at their jobs, and people who have been comically bad at their jobs are now telling Trump, go for it. Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Donald Trump asked the operative question. And let's assume again that this is truthful. It's possible that all of this was done for scare tactics. The reason why I say that, it's not that I don't believe that these guys are lunatics. It's more so that a document was released talking about the United States' ability to use nuclear arms. That document was only out for a little bit. That document should have been classified. Now, you could say that they were cartoonish and bad at their jobs and released it, or you can say they were using it to try to scare the shit out of opponents. Because ultimately, Donald Trump doesn't have the stones to go further into a larger conflict. Ergo, they have to scare and bully. By the same token, they could have literally been pretty much wheels up. How many people are going to die? Say he was overestimating. Say it wasn't 150. Say it was 75. Say it was 50. Say it was 10. Say it was 3. I would argue that even if it was 1, for an unmanned drone, the price would be far, far too high. An unmanned drone that we don't even know for certain if it was actually flying in international waters, meaning it is possible that it was indeed flying in the airspace, that we are not being truthful about where that drone was flying, and that they shot that drone down in clean faith. Good faith, clean hands. I look at this decision and say, you know what? Good. I don't want him to bomb Iran. I think it's a horrible choice for him to bomb Iran. And I don't know the consequences of that action after he does so. But there are people on CNN who look at that choice and say, oh, this is Trump, doesn't know what he's doing. How dare he didn't bomb Iran. He didn't kill enough people in this process. He didn't kill enough people. You don't believe me? Listen to this lunatic. This woman's name is Samantha Vigeland, and they're calling her a national security analyst, which is astonishing. But let's hear her out. Let's see if her political acumen in regards to what is going to take place lines up with reality. Tell me what you think.
This is kind of a worst case scenario scenario, the president is showing that he ostensibly made a decision, had a National Security Council meeting, and wasn't willing to follow through. Which, all in all, this shows gross disorganization and a president who can't seem to make up his mind, even on something as important as a military strike on Iran.
What does she want? Samantha Vinograd. They're calling her a national security analyst. What does she want? More blood? Is she willing to go to war with Iran herself? Is she going to put on a tin hat and go enlist? I strongly doubt that. She's sitting there looking emaciated. Are you okay with the consequences of those actions? I agree with you that Donald Trump comes across as being disorganized. And I even agree with you that none of this had to take place. Donald Trump precipitated all of these events. But what do you want? What do you expect him to do? Are you saying that he should go through with those bombings? Do you need more blood in order to say, okay, fair enough, he did a good job, he murdered enough Iranians? Is that what you're trying to say? I don't understand what you're trying to get across here. You're on CNN essentially making this argument that the president comes across as being completely disorganized. True. But why are you telling me this? Even in the process of a national security meeting, what do you want him to do? All of these cronies that are around him want him to go further into a larger conflict. What is your argument? He should listen to his people around him. If he's going to call that meeting, he should follow through with whatever the rulings of that meeting, even if the rulings of that meeting will embroil this country into a larger conflict. A conflict, mind you, that Congress in no way gave its approval of. Because after all, whether we remember or not, it is indeed Congress that declare wars. This is massively irresponsible for CNN. And I understand that this is their thing. All of these guys are kind of ginned up. It's like, yes, I can't believe he got in the way of war. We could have, he's affecting our ratings. Every other president would have just went with it. No other president asked how much loss of life that would have taken place. He would have just went. They shot down our drone. We're supposed to be willing to kill Iranians for this. Their lives matter less than our hardware. He asked the operative question. It's not a bad thing. He asked the operative question. And you're browbeating him for it. Trump got himself into this mess, and Trump needed to find a way out. Trump ends up saving face by saying it was a mistake. That was his means of saving face. Iran wasn't backing down. Iran couldn't back down. They had nowhere else to go. I mean, ultimately, they're saying this was in our territory. So the only person at this point that had the capacity to back down in this process was Donald Trump. And thank God he took it. Thank God he took it. What I would ask you is, what are the consequences of Donald Trump doing that strike? Listening to this lunatic. What are the consequences? What are the consequences if Donald Trump listened to all the lunatics that was around him that say, go, 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 go? What are the consequences? What do you think Iran would do? Do you think that these airstrikes would go untended? That Iran would sit there and just take it? I guarantee you they won't. I guarantee you they won't. They can't. This is the point I'm trying to make to you. They are stuck with their own political winds in that country. They're stuck with their own hardliners in that country. They have politics, just like we have politics in this country. And if you strike them, your presidency is no longer your own. Understand what I am saying. Be very clear with what I'm saying. The moment that you do this, the moment that you fire off a missile, the moment that you do this airstrikes that these guys are talking about, your presidency is no longer your own. All of those guys that are around you want a larger conflict with Iran. None of them ultimately have the responsibility of dealing with that. You do. You do. if Iran fires off missiles in response and retaliation, and it kills Americans, it kills allies, what if they attack Israel? What if Israel gets into a back and forth with Iran over that? Will the United States get involved? Will other countries get involved? How do you know other countries won't get involved? How do you know this stays a regional conflict? How do you know this stays a regional conflict even if it's just the United States and Iran doing the back and forth? The moment that those missiles hit any one of our allies, the United States to some degree is automatically involved in that conflict. For fuck's sake, we are literally striking them and talking about killing people over hardware. Do we honestly believe that life is so small and so irrelevant? This woman is a lunatic. Donald Trump did a good thing, not attacking them. I'm going to end this here. Actually, let me see. I have super chats. This thing annoyed me to no end. The trivial way in which we regard life, it's astonishing. Next, CNN will call Trump a Putin puppet for inaction. I know. He didn't attack him because he's listening to Vladimir Putin. I like French fries, curds, gravy, and Canada's first stage of healthcare rollout. I'm a poutine puppet. Poutine puppet. All right, I'm going to end this. I didn't want this one to go as long as this one went, but God, man. Like, it's astonishing to me that these people are so depraved. Yes, he's disorganized. Yes, he's disheveled. No, I still don't want him going to war with Iran. Even in that, I don't care if each and every one of those people say, yes, a drone being shot down is perfectly equivalent to 50 lives, 20 lives, 30 lives. I am still glad that he turned around and say, no. The question becomes, how long does he say no while he's taking this very particular posture? And Trump went so far as to say, call me. If you want them to call you, you need to reinstate the JCPOA. It is an impossible prospect for them to talk to you otherwise. I'll leave this here. Thanks all. You did a video trivializing the horror at the border. No, I did not. No, I did not. I did not trivialize the horror at the border. No, the difference is sometimes lefties have a tendency to compare everything to Hitler. And whether you realize it or not, you lose credibility when you do that. Everything is not Hitler. Things can be bad without those things being Hitler. Get over yourself. There's a difference in those things. Yemen is not Venezuela. And I make that point because as bad as Venezuela is, it's not Yemen. I ask, is there starvation at the border? Nobody asked the question. Are they, do you honestly believe that the people at the border are Nazis? And they say, oh, but they're not talking about death camps as a dodge. I never said death camps. I said concentration camps. From day one, they were being starved and worked to death. From day one, they would be shot on a whim, beaten on a whim, used for medical experimentation. Now, unless you're going to explain to me that this is taking place at the border, I'm going to think what you're saying is hyperbolic. Because she used the term never again that is very specific to Jews. That is very specific to Jews. There may be 20-somethings that don't remember that. Open a history book. That is very specific to Jews in World War II. If you want to convince me that things that are taking place at the border are horrible, I agree with you. If you want to say that Donald Trump is racist and xenophobic, I would agree with you. If you want to say that those things are horrific, that those things need to change, that those things are a crime against humanity, agreed. If you want to say they're internment camps like they were in World War II, I would agree with you. Even if she left it at concentration camps, I would have still said, okay. But she didn't. You shouldn't defend her for it. Shouldn't defend her for it at all. Expanding electrons. EE2, skip rock 1, aggregate 2, colon 2. Home goals win. Home goals win. That's awesome. That's funny. I have no idea what that means. They're being tortured and raped. No, they are being tortured and raped, but not. See, you're losing credibility with me. I'm sorry, you're losing credibility with me. Because are prison guards Nazis? Are they Nazis? Like, I would agree with you that kids being separated from their families is horrible. I would agree with you that all the stuff that's taking place at the border is horrible. But there's not this case of systemic rape. I mean, your argument, you are literally arguing that what is taking place at the border are akin to Nazis. You've lost me. All right, I'll leave it here. Thanks, all.